And so very lovely. Thank you very much. I love the hymn ministry, the singing ministry in the life of this church. I'm reminded of it every single Sabbath day, particularly Sabbath celebrations like we had this morning with a fairly full congregation. Wasn't it fuller than usual? I kind of got that impression, and not sure why the Spirit decided to grace us in that way. Maybe the college kids are back, and that had something to do with it, and you beautiful people who are so faithful in the life of this church had a lot to do with it, and we had a number of visitors this morning. Isn't it interesting? And they did come through the middle door, and every time we greet those visitors like you do so joyously, that word gets out. That word gets out. Whether you're in New York City, and isn't it interesting, Maurice Boyd, the minister that Charles mentioned in his presentation, I did a wedding, co-officiated a wedding with Maurice Boyd several years ago in New York City. Isn't that something? And a good friend of Jana's, childhood friend of Jana's from Lubbock. So it's a small world. But that word gets out, whether it's Brownwood, Texas, or New York City, or because it's contagious, it's infectious. And that's the kind of spirit you folks have. Dr. Smith reminded me tonight in his beautiful sermon of the spiritual principle of abundance. God's love, God's money, God's grace, God's goodness, it's just abundant. It's never ending. And you sow those seeds, and we're going to see this in the last chapter of Galatians if we finish this epistle tonight. You sow those seeds of abundance, and here comes more abundance. You sow those seeds of trust and blessing, and here comes more trust and blessing. You sow those seeds of financial stewardship, and here comes more financial stewardship. By the way, friends, and we'll say this 100 times, we're not called to equal gifts, but we are called to equal sacrifice. You've heard preachers and spiritual teachers say that to you for years, and that is God's own truth. It's that principle of abundance. You step out on faith, and here comes good things that happen. And God is leading in the life of this church. God is speaking to all of our hearts and minds, and we're going to be Baptist Christians. We're going to vote on the, when is it, Brother John? On the 24th? 27th. On the 31st, we're going to vote. And we're going to believe that God has spoken in that vote. We're not going to get, as I said several weeks ago, we're not going to get any emails from Nashville or Dallas about this. There's nobody in the Baptist building in downtown Dallas who's going to say, this is what the First Baptist Church of Brownwood has to do. And we're Baptists, and we believe in the freedom of every individual believer in the context of community. It's not a Lone Ranger faith. We're all bound in this together, but it's a community of individual believers, the priesthood of every individual believer, and that means that you're a priest to me and I'm a priest to you, and we're priests to each other. Great day today, just a great day, and we're going to have another great day next Sunday as we celebrate the baptism of Shelby Grooms, that beautiful girl. And after the service, I said, Shelby, you go invite all of your friends. And you know something? That kid's going to do that this week. I mean, does she have a smile that'll light up Dallas itself? And she's going to do that this week. And she's going to go to school and she's going to invite all her friends. And some of those kids are going to show up here next week. And they're going to be touched by you, and they're going to go home and tell their parents, and then their parents are going to show up here. And that's just the way the goodness of God works, and it's already happening. And who wouldn't want to be with folks like you? I'm telling you, who wouldn't want to be with y'all? You can't stay away from it. It's too good. It's too good. Can't stay away from it. And then some of those couples, I'm going through your list. I'm making those calls. I'm hearing, well, Brother Charles, we've joined another church. We've joined the Methodist Church, or we've joined another church. Well, look, there's only one church, and that's the Church of Jesus Christ. Am I right about that? And so God gets the victory. So that's good. And we're not going to say, well, God bless you, we miss you. That's what we're going to say. We're not going to be punitive. We're not going to say, well, why'd you go do that? We're not going to say, you just got out ahead of the game. If you had just waited a little bit, good things are happening back at First Baptist Brownwood. But let me tell you something. There's plenty of unreached people in Brownwood, Texas. And there's plenty of young couples who don't have a church home. I did a wedding in Fort Worth back in December. Did I tell you all this story? I don't think I did. The wedding coordinator came up to me after the wedding and said, Brother Charles, would you be willing to perform more weddings? It was a beautiful wedding ceremony and so forth and so on. Look, preachers, and Brother Leonard, thank you for your correction to me. I'm not going to go into any detail, but thank you for your correction. But all the preacher has to do at a wedding is walk in and announce God's blessing and speak God's word. That young bride's done all the work. And her mother's done all the work. And all the flowers are there. And everything's just right. So this is one of those many, many occasions when all the minister has to do is to come in, preside over the event, and there's abundant goodness, as Dr. Smith knows from celebrating many weddings throughout his ministry. But this wedding coordinator said, great job, beautiful, just so wonderful, and would you be willing to do this again? And I said, well, I'm busy. I'm interim pastor down in Brownwood. I'm not sure. And then she said this. I've thought about it for a month. She said, I do 400 weddings a year. She has 8 teams. She said, we do 6 and 8 weddings a weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Morning, afternoon, and evening. And she said, 80% of my young couples do not have a church and do not have a pastor. 80%. 80%. And that's true for Brownwood, Texas, too. And so we've got a mission field here. And God is going to use folks like you and me to go and reach this mission field. The fields are white unto harvest, but the laborers are few. Pray that the laborers will increase. And I got to think, even though a decision's not been made, I got to think that you folks are moving in the right direction about this renovation campaign. I have to believe that it's God's will to make the house of the Lord accessible for all people. To make a place at God's table for everybody. Costly? Yes. I don't have transcendent wisdom about all of that, but God's going to reveal God's wisdom through all of us praying, learning, listening, struggling together.